Sometimes people pleasing is so sneaky you don't even notice it until you're exhausted, frustrated, or quietly resentful. It doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it looks like saying yes when you're already tired, answering text when your brain is asking for a break, agreeing to plans you don't even want to go to just because you don't want someone to be upset, or even laughing at something that actually bothered you because you don't want to create tension. Over time, people pleasing teaches your mind a pattern where instead of asking yourself, how do I feel about this? You automatically start asking, how will they feel if I say no? Welcome back to Blooming After Darkness. If this is the first time you're here, thank you so much for clicking play. And if you're back again, thank you so much for coming back. It truly means a lot. Today I want to talk about people pleasing, boundaries, and why saying no can feel so uncomfortable even when you know deep down you need to protect your peace. A lot of people think people pleasing is just being nice, but it often goes much deeper than that. Psychology actually shows that people who struggle with people pleasing often have a stronger sensitivity to rejection, which means even small moments of disappointing someone can feel emotionally heavier than they do for other people. For many, this pattern starts early. Sometimes you learn growing up that being the easy one, the helpful one, or the one who keeps peace gets approval, avoids conflict, or makes life feel emotionally safer. So later in life, even when you're an adult, saying no can still trigger guilt because your nervous system has learned to connect boundaries with discomfort. The truth is, most people pleasers are not weak people. They're often deeply caring people, empathetic people, thoughtful people, and usually the ones everyone depends on because they show up, they help, they listen, and they care. But the hard part is that caring without boundaries eventually becomes exhausting. It can leave you feeling drained while everyone around you still assumes you're fine because you've become so good at functioning while overextending yourself. Think about family for a second. Maybe someone in your family texts you in the evening asking for help, and you already know your energy is gone. Maybe you finally sat down after a long day. Maybe you wanted to just breathe for just a minute, but before you even think, you hear yourself saying yes. Then later you feel irritated, not because you don't love them, but because part of you knew you needed rest and ignored that, and you ignored that need again. Family often makes boundaries harder because love and guilt can get mixed together. Sometimes people assume that if you love someone, you should always be available. But healthy love still allows limits. The same thing happens in friendships. Maybe you have a friend who calls every time they're overwhelmed and you care about them. But sometimes you notice the conversation always centers around their stress, their problems, their emotions, while your own needs get pushed aside. Then one day you feel tired and don't want to answer, but guilt shows up immediately. You think, what if they think I'm being distant? What if they think something is wrong? What if they get upset? So you answer anyway, even though mentally you needed a break. A healthy friendship should allow room for honesty. It is okay to say, I care about you, but I can't right now, or I need to check in later. Work is another place. This is where people pleasing shows up constantly. Maybe someone asks you to take on something extra even though your plate is already full. And because you're known as reliable, you automatically agree. The problem is reliability without boundaries often turns into burnout. People who always say yes often become the people carrying more than everyone realizes. A healthy response can sound like, I can help, but I need to finish what I already have first. Or I can revisit that tomorrow. That's not laziness. That is protecting your mental energy. Even parenting can bring this out. Sometimes your child needs attention the second you walk in the door, or right when you're mentally stretched thin. And I have 3, so I am well aware of this. And your instinct is to immediately respond because you don't want them to feel ignored. But boundaries in parenting are not rejection. Saying give me 10 minutes to reset and then I'm all yours actually teaches emotional balance. It teaches that your needs matter too, and that care can exist without immediate self-sacrifice. You matter too, and without your cup being filled, you can't fill everyone else's. One thing many people pleasers do without realizing it is over-explain. You finally say no, but then you spend 5 minutes explaining every reason because you want the other person to fully understand so that they won't be upset. You say things like, I'm sorry, I've just had too much going on and I didn't sleep well and I still need to do this and that. But the truth is, a respectful no does not need a long defense. Sometimes the healthiest sentence is simply, I can't today, or that doesn't work for me, or I need time before I can answer that. A lot of people feel uncomfortable hearing that because simple boundaries can feel almost too short when you're used to emotionally cushioning everyone else. But healthy people do not need a courtroom explanation for your limits. They may not always love your boundary, but they can still respect it. It's important to understand that guilt does not always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt simply means you're doing something differently than you used to. If your normal pattern has always been over-accommodating, then of course boundaries will feel strange at first. Your mind may immediately question you. Was I too harsh? Should I have just done it? Are they upset? That internal questioning is common, especially in the beginning. There are actually signs that people pleasing may be affecting you more than you realize. If you feel guilty saying no, if you replay conversations afterwards, if you apologize even when you did nothing wrong, if you agree too quickly and regret it later, or if you constantly worry about how others perceive your choices, those are all signs your boundaries may need strengthening. The good news, though, is boundaries do not need to be dramatic to be effective. In fact, small boundaries often matter most. You can start by pausing before answering instead of responding immediately. Instead of saying yes automatically, you can say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. That pause creates space to actually ask yourself if you want to do it, if you have energy, or if guilt is making the decision for you. Another helpful tip is to notice where resentment is showing up, because resentment often points directly to where a boundary is missing. If you repeatedly feel irritated in the same type of situation, that may be your emotional signal that something needs to change. And here's something interesting. Research shows that people who maintain healthier boundaries often report lower stress levels and greater life satisfaction. There's also evidence that chronic people-pleasing can keep stress hormones elevated because you're constantly managing how everyone else feels while neglecting what your own nervous system needs. Boundaries also teach people how to treat you, but consistency matters. If you say no today and then change it because someone pushes, people learn that pushing works. But if you stay calm and consistent, even if it feels awkward, your limits become clearer over time. That doesn't mean everyone will instantly like your boundaries. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that always says yes, always adjusts, always stretches. So when you begin to protecting your peace, it can surprise them. But someone else's disappointment is not proof that your boundary is wrong. And boundaries do not make you cold. This is one of the biggest fears people have. They think if I become better at saying no, I'll lose my softness. But boundaries are not hardness. They are clarity. You can still be warm, loving, kind, and supportive and compassionate while being honest about what you can and cannot carry. It also helps to remember that boundaries are not only with other people. Sometimes they are with yourself. Not checking messages before bed, not saying yes out of pressure, not filling every quiet moment by responding to everyone immediately. Sometimes protecting your peace means deciding that not everything needs your immediate energy. The more you practice, the more self-trust you build. Every time you honor your own limit, even imperfectly, you send yourself a message that your needs matter too. Not more than anyone else's, but not less either. And that is a beautiful thing, because valuing yourself doesn't take away from anyone else. It simply honors the person you are. People-pleasing often comes from old patterns that once felt protective. Maybe keeping the peace felt safer. Maybe being agreeable felt easier. But growth asks a different question. Can I still be kind without abandoning myself? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. And every small step you take toward that, every gentle boundary you set, is a victory worth noticing and celebrating. Now, this concludes this video, but if this message resonated with you today, remember, you can continue your journey at bloomingafterdarkness.com, where you'll find resources, digital downloads on mental health wellness, and courses designed to support your growth, healing, and emotional well-being. And if you found this video helpful, I'd love it if you could please give it a like It helps me know I'm reaching people who need this. And while you're here, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos that dive into self-love, boundaries, mental health tools, and everything in between. Also, feel free to leave a comment sharing your experience or even just one small boundary you're proud of setting. It can inspire someone else in this community. Remember, learning to say no without guilt, protecting your peace, and stopping the over-explaining of your worth isn't selfish, it's self-respect. And the more you practice, the more you'll see that honoring yourself gently actually strengthens your connections and your happiness. Much love, keep going, and I'll see you in the next video.